right? And that's what motivation makes us do. It makes us forget about, the struggles, and it makes us kind of just act.
That means I'm moving. I made a few mistakes, but I'm improving. I'm human, but I've been making daily resolutions. I got to. You might do it different, but I'm not you.
Hey, Mark.
I'm self-made. I'm
Hey, Mark.
doing things that I
Mark.
was never taught.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, what's up? What's going on? How's your day going? Welcome to another episode of Hey Mark, the podcast where I, Mark, get to have open and authentic conversations about mental health, self-development, depression, anxiety, all the things that we don't necessarily want to talk about, the things that we don't talk about on a daily basis. And the reason I'm doing that is because I just want to bring these topics up, end the stigma, or break it down a little bit and just start these conversations so that other people know. And that means you, yes, you're not alone no matter what you're going through. You're not alone no matter what you're struggling with or whatever is bringing you down or keeping you down. And as long as we can all kind of have a community that we can rely on, a group of people that can support us, people that have kind of dealt with this before or are dealing with this right now, or maybe we'll deal with it in the future and you can help them then. Just building that community and understanding that you're not alone. And so today's episode is another episode of What Would Mark Do? And it's a segment where you can send in a clip of you asking a question, telling me your opinion on a topic or a statement, something that you want to maybe share with me, like an accomplishment that you've made recently, or maybe something that you're struggling with recently. And I'll kind of give you my 2 cents on the topic. Maybe we'll agree, maybe we'll disagree, maybe we'll come to common ground. But that's basically what it is. So let's roll today's entry, and I'll kind of go ahead and answer your question.
Hey, Mark. I have a question. What do you do when you find yourself losing some motivation when you're working towards a goal, big or small, but you just need to rewire yourself to get yourself back on track? I'd like to hear it. Thanks.
Hey, Mark. Can you tell me what your favorite tips and tricks for staying motivated are? Because I know a lot of people always struggle with motivation, and I'd love to.
So what do you do when you find yourself losing motivation? What do you do when you find yourself kind of in a slump? You're working towards a goal and you just need to rewire yourself. I like that question, man. And motivation is it's a common theme nowadays. It's a hot topic. It's something that's very, out in the open. It's talked about very openly. But all we talk about is, you got to have motivation. You got to have drive. You got to have something pushing you. You got to have, that inspiration, right? You hear that all the time in motivational speeches, on podcasts, on videos. Even on my podcast, I talk about motivation, inspiration, these types of things. And to some degree, it almost bothers me because I get people in my DMs messaging me and they're like, yeah, I want to, kind of make these improvements in my life. I just wish I had the motivation. And this is something that I speak about as well, because it kind of brings to light 2 big misconceptions. And the first misconception that it brings to mind is the fact that people assume that motivation is just like a trait that you have. You're either born with it or you're not. You either have it or you don't. And then the other misconception is that you're supposed to have motivation all the time. People think that it's wrong when they don't have motivation. And so let's kind of talk about that first, and then I'll go into how you can be more motivated all the time. Right? So the first misconception is that people think that it's something that you either have or you don't. You're either a motivated person or you're not. People are like, wow, you're such a motivated guy. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not motivated to do these things. Right? Motivation isn't something that you're just born with. I'm not a motivated guy in that sense. It's not a trait that you just have. It's a skill. It's a discipline. It's something that you kind of develop, right? And you find a motivation when you're desperate for a change, when you need to have a change, or you have something that you want to accomplish. That's your motivation. The motivation comes right at the beginning, and that's what makes you take the first step. That's what kind of pushes you towards whatever you're motivated of, or whatever you're motivated towards, I guess. And the second misconception, like I said, people think that you're supposed to have motivation all the time. Motivation comes in waves. Motivation is like any other feeling that you get, whether it's joy or anger or rage or pain or whatever it is, right? Like those things come in waves. Motivation isn't there all the time. It's not even meant to be there all the time, because we're not meant to be just gunning towards things at full speed all the time, right? And that's what motivation makes us do. It makes us forget about, the struggles, and it makes us kind of just act. And so, we're not supposed to be doing that all the time, even though a lot of people say that you are. Even I say that you are supposed to be sometimes. And so I just want to smash that misconception right off the bat. You're not supposed to feel motivation all the time. Motivation is what makes you start something. It's discipline that makes you continue doing that thing when it gets difficult, or when you don't necessarily want to do it, but you know that you should, or you have this feeling that you should, or you have maybe the feeling of resistance towards it, right? Having the discipline to do it when it's difficult or no one's watching is how you continue on going with it. It's not about motivation, it's about having the discipline. Like I said, the motivation is just what got you started. So without beating a dead horse there and telling you just need to develop discipline, which again is the exact same as motivation. It's not a trait that you just have, it's a skill that you develop. It's something that you develop by doing things that require discipline. As Andy Frisella would say, let's talk about how you could build that discipline, how you can kind of continue on going when you don't want to do whatever it is you're working towards. When you have a goal and you just want to continue going, but you're feeling like you're lacking motivation. The very first thing that I'll bring up is remember your why. And so a quote that could go along with that is a quote by Friedrich Nietzsche, which is, "He who has a why can bear almost any how." And so what he's trying to indicate here is you have to remember why you started whatever it is you started. You have to remember why you're doing this. You have to remember what you're gonna feel like at the end, or what feeling do you know that you don't want to feel in the future that you felt in the past. What pushed you to start doing this, or motivated you to start doing this in the beginning? And remember that, remind yourself of it, write it down. Think about it, say it to yourself, say it to other people, remind people around you just to remind yourself. Remind yourself of that why as often as you can, because if you have a why that's beyond yourself, a why that's, more than just you right now, then you can do anything. You can bear almost any how, whatever it takes, like he says, right? So what are you looking to achieve? Why did you start doing this? And that's going to remind you why it's important to continue doing it right now. The second thing that I would say is, I guess the first thing that you want to do actually, break down your goal, man. Break it down. Break it down to a step-by-step process. Like, I always use this principle that I learned a long time ago at work. It was from a boss. They told me this, but use the KISS principle. You might have heard of it in the past. Keep it super simple, or keep it simple, stupid, whatever it is. Keep it super simple, man. Break it down to a step-by-step process. If it's a weight loss goal, whatever it could be, yeah. But if it's a weight loss goal, right? You're telling yourself you gotta lose 40 pounds. That's a daunting task. That's difficult. How about we start with, the first 5 pounds, the first pound, and break it down step by step. Let's think about another quote right now. This is an important quote as well. A journey of 1,000 miles has to begin with one step. That's a Lao Tzu quote. So what is he saying here? Your goal might be huge, but what you have to do is break it down into small steps. And when you're going on that 1,000-mile journey, you're not thinking about, I have 900 miles to go, or 500 miles to go, or 400 miles to go. You're not thinking about that. You're thinking about just one more step, man. Just one more step. And you're continuing on telling yourself this. Just one more step every single time. One more step. This has been huge in my life when I'm kind of doing a program maybe like 75 hard, where I have to train twice a day every day, and I'm getting really sore really early. I'm telling myself, just one more day, just one more day, just one more day. And that has carried me to right now where I'm at, which is day 72 of 75. So that's how that's applied to my life. And then the last one I'm going to remind you of is kind of reflect on your wins, reflect on your past victories. You're going to use this for confidence. I'm gonna read off one more quote here. It's by David Goggins. So what does Goggins have to say about this topic? Let me read this quote right now. He says, whenever you feel down, you need to go into your cookie jar and remember who you really are. You're not the weak person your mind may be telling you that you are. You're the person that has survived tough times in the past. You are your achievements. And so what he's referring to with this cookie jar is he's saying, you have to keep a mental cookie jar. And every time you have an accomplishment in your life or you think back on the past accomplishments you've had, you're gonna put that cookie in the cookie jar to have later as a little snack to give you some more motivation, right? And so when you're going through tough times, when you're losing your motivation or you're in pain, you're struggling and you just wanna quit, you can go into that little mental cookie jar and pull out little victories that you've had in the past, tough times that you've gone through before. All of these things are gonna remind you how victorious you've been, how formidable you've been, how strong you've been in the past, and how you can overcome what it is that you're going through right now. Like, have you faced a problem like this in the past? Have you learned anything in the past that could be applied to this problem? Is it applicable now? Like, that's what the cookie jar is. It's to remind you that you are a badass motherfucker who can do whatever it is that you want to do. And the very last thing, we'll call this the bonus round. The very last thing I'm going to remind you of is basically just to kind of take a look at when your motivation dropped. Was there something that happened to you? Was there maybe an emotion that you had? Was there maybe an event that happened or a friend that you spoke to? Whatever it is, whatever causes you to lose motivation in your life, fucking eliminate it. Get rid of it. Just delete it from your life. Control-Alt-Delete that shit. Get rid of it and don't allow your motivation to drop in the future. So I hope that answers your question. I hope that gives you kind of a new perspective on a problem like this. If you guys have any questions about this, feel free to send it to me in a clip and I'll answer back. But that's all I got for today. So thank you so much for supporting. Much love and peace out.